Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something I'll call Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem, go after what you want. And going into this year, the thing I really wanted to do was rewatch Halt and Catch Fire, but this time talk about it with real live humans. And so that's what I'm doing now. And this has been up leveled because now I'm getting a chance to talk with people who worked on this show and to hear all different kinds of viewpoints about it. So this has been an absolute blast. Get ready for a fun interview. And before we get into it, one quick comment that may or may not be necessary for this one. If you haven't seen the show all the way through, the episode recaps are spoiler free for whatever episode you're up to. The interviews are spoiler filled. So you could hear some things in this interview that come up in the future of the show from where you are right now. And that's just the risk you run for hearing the great words that are going to come from my guest today, who is Will Greenberg, who is Brian Braswell for 5 episodes of season 1. Will, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yeah, let's spoil some things.
Just for good measure, let's spoil everything. Let's see how much we can spoil. I mean, look, you were in season 1, so chances are at this point, people might have already seen your episodes, but let's just talk about whatever comes to mind. I'm just so excited to catch up with you because Brian, Brian has been so fun to watch.
Yeah, it was so fun to play it. And I was basically playing my father every day, putting on that outfit. He didn't have the mustache, and I didn't have the mustache either. I think I actually auditioned with a fake mustache, which is the only time I've done that. And then they got me a better one. So that is fake.
Yeah,
Just to
okay.
ruin people's fantasies. Yes.
Well, so first of all, okay, you talked about the audition. What was your process for getting onto the show to begin with?
So I actually went to college with one of the creators, Chris Cantwell, and he. I was always a comedy guy. My grandfather just said it was because I'm funny looking, but Chris knew I could do other act in dramas, whatever. So he got me an audition for his show, which was so cool. And lo and behold, I booked it. I think I even had to record it. I was back home in Houston. I'm from Houston. And I had to have my father read the scene with me because my mother couldn't get through it without laughing. She's not professional. And this is way before self tapes. I mean, I don't even remember. I think I filmed it. I don't know how I got it to them. I had to
Like
upload it from a
VHS
regular camera. I
camcorder?
don't, yeah. So
Well,
it's
it couldn't have been
definitely
that.
11 years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Probably not on your phone at that point.
I gotta find it. You reaching out and doing this podcast reminded me. I have that tape somewhere. I should find it, and if I can, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Chris, God bless him. And I almost couldn't do it because at the time I was shooting something really important that my buddy and I had created, and I had to say to him and our entire production, "Hey, I've got to go to Atlanta for 48 hours," and I almost didn't make it back, and it would have ruined quite a few friendships and whatnots. But it was worth it because the part of Brian Braswell was in 5 different episodes. So the first episode, I think I only have one line. I like pass by the office and I say, "Hey, I'll see you at the baseball game," or whatever, something. And bless his heart, Scoot McNairy was the one who was like, "You seem a little nervous. Well, what's going on?" He's like, and I told him, I said, "I got to get out of here. I gotta catch a flight back to Los Angeles." And he's the one who alerted production. They're like, he goes, "He's done. Let him go." So thank you, Scoot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then 4 more episodes after that, it was just
Exactly.
so wonderful. Um, I guess before we get into the, specific episodes, you've done at this point in your career, you've done quite a lot of TV shows and
Yeah.
movies. Like you've had a lot of credits to your name here. What do you remember about the process of shooting this show? Like, is there anything that stands out to you as being unique to some of the other sets that you've been on?
Yes. I mean, mainly because of Scoot. Scoot, I had known Scoot. You don't meet that many Scoots in this life, but I had known him before that. He was a working man actor for years and years and years before he really got his big break with this show, I think. Um, and he was actually married to someone I grew up with in Houston. And so, Los Angeles, if you live here for long enough, it becomes a small town. You kind of know everybody. But just seeing how Scoot he made that set his own. I'll give you one little tidbit. If he would ask them, he'd go, "Do you see my feet in this shot?" And they'd say no, and he'd go, "Okay," and he'd put his slippers on, and he would do intense scenes with Lee Pace and whoever else wearing his like little hotel slippers because that's Scoot. He does not care.
I'm going to see that a lot now without
You
seeing it.
might catch them. Who knows? I think they were like Ugg slippers or something, but Scoot is a real original, and he loved. He made the set a family. Everybody has to be cool with everybody else. We're all in this together. No egos. So it was amazing.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And actually, the slipper bit kind of makes sense for his character too, because I feel like he's sort of like over time, he's sort of like the Zen guy in a way. It's
Yeah.
like he finds an inner peace that most of the other characters don't seem to have. So I like that he sort of represented that from like the ankle down.
Exactly. Yes, he's a fish. He's a big fisherman. He had this amazing truck that had his fishing rods ready to go. He would literally just pull off the road and throw his line in, trying to catch a fish. And it was 19 degrees outside. I was like, "You're not going to catch anything, Scoot." But he had to try. He's an outdoorsman at heart.
Oh, wow. Well, so for me in this show, Brian's kind of an unexpected villain. Like on a first watch, I
Right.
was not prepared for what happens with Brian. So I'm curious, what did you know about Brian when you first took on the role? Like how much did that develop over time versus like you kind of knew the arc was going to be there?
I didn't know. I didn't know. I only knew that he, yeah, was going to try and, you know, it's hard for people to take risks and do and try something new. And that's what spoke to me is that I came from a very conservative place, Houston, and that's people were all about you're a company man. You get a job and you just do it for 35 years. So I didn't know it would like totally spin him out and uh, send him down, not such a great rabbit hole, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So when we first meet him, what we know about Brian is he's a next door neighbor to Gordon and his family. He's a coworker with Gordon. They seem to have a friendship. They seem to have some things that they do where they sort of hang out together. Like how much of a backstory did you have, or did you create for yourself for Brian?
Um, Boy, it's a good question. I think because I was so familiar and friends already with Scoot, that was natural. Um, but yeah, the feelings, and honestly, it's more like I believe if you're right for a part, you're right for the part. And there's a saying that 90% of making something successful is just casting it right. and there's just an innate something there between our relationships. I didn't have to develop that much backstory because I knew this world. Like I said, it reminded me of my father and being in a corporate world, and but then the whole neighborhood thing, and there's a status, and there was a status in my neighborhood growing up between, somebody's father who was like a CEO of a company to someone who was more of a cog in the wheel. And I think that I just knew immediately to play that kind of thing. Does that
Mhm.
answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested about this transition process that Brian has. And I think like you just started to frame it in a way that that makes me think about it a little differently. But I think it was your second episode. It was the third episode of season one, High Plains Hardware. We get a lot more screen time with Brian. He's one of the guys who survived a lot of layoffs,
Right.
and he's now seemingly a very close advisor to Gordon, except he just is like Mr. Negative. He just, every single
Yeah.
thing, that every idea, every solution, there's a reason why it can't work. So he seems initially really risk averse. And then, by the end of season one, he doesn't seem so risk averse anymore. And so in my head, I was putting it in that way of like, he goes from this to this. You were just starting to talk about like, he has a break. What's his personality really? What do you think is happening in that middle space that gets him to where he lands?
Yeah, I think with a lot of uh, men of that time, they got their self-worth from being part of this company. And when you take that away from Brian, even though he felt like he was doing what was in the best interest of the company, I'm sure it would throw anybody for a loop. Um, and it throws him for a loop, and he doesn't know who he is anymore. Um, because I'm sure he'd had to start at square one, or nobody else would take him, or who knows.
Mm.
Um, but I don't. I just play things as an actor, like what's happening in this scene, what is my character afraid of, and is trying to get and make happen. So the overall arc is that's in the writing, that's in the storytelling. So
Mm. One of my favorite moments, one of my favorite scenes, and it's very sad, but it also cracked me up because it's right after Ryan is fired. And the next day, well, I don't know how many days later, Gordon has to go to work in the morning. He goes outside, walks across his lawn, goes to the car, and there's Brian standing in his bathrobe, giving the most passive aggressive, hey, you've ever heard in your life. And I just, on this rewatch, as I was like recapping it, I was like, I wonder how many days he has been doing this and how many days he will do this. It feels like he's got a lot of energy.
probably every day. I think I improvised that something. It was so cold that day as well. It was 19 degrees, and it was supposed to be like summer in Texas or something. And I was wearing old dad tidy whities and the shortest shorts they could find. And so I was passive aggressive, I think, about how cold I was too. And I was like, "You've got maybe another 5 minutes of this before I need hospitalization." But yeah, Brian definitely. I mean, he holds a grudge. They move, don't they move? I think we. I don't even remember. I'm.
Brian?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I don't know how that would have been sustainable. I by the end of season one, I just don't know how that would have been sustainable to maintain a neighbor relationship after that. Yeah.
You got to
um,
be nice to your neighbors.
that's the thing. I have one of the things that was really surprising to me about how the season closes out and sort of the reveal that we get is that Brian somehow ends up getting connected with Hunt, who was Donna's boss. So you end up working with Donna's boss, who's been getting information from Donna about the computers, the PC that Cardiff has been working on. So there's been, it's not a, I think it's sort of accidental corporate espionage. Like, I don't know. She's just giving a lot of information, and I don't know that he initially is taking it for a reason. But then at some point, your characters connect, and you end up making a competing product that you're going to launch like seconds before the Cardiff PC is supposed to come out. And it made me wonder, like, how does that connection happen? You know, I'm assuming that it was initiated by Brian, that Brian had like so much fuel that he showed up on Hunt's door somehow. But like, did you ever have a thought about how did I get from here to here with my character?
No, I think it's just it's like kill or be killed. You have to keep moving it. And I think there was resentment against Gordon being made into given so much power and basically going over my character's head. But I honestly don't remember a lot of that story.
Well, it's between the lines. It's the stuff that isn't shown, and
Okay.
it's a really interesting piece because I think that's what made it an interesting reveal for me as a viewer. Like, how these two are exactly the right team, but how did they get together? Well, so that brings us to, I think, a pretty pivotal scene. Might have been your last one on the show in episode 9, where the actual reveal of the slingshot happens, and it's at Comdex. It's, you know, you've got sort of a big audience that you're speaking to, you're showing off this computer, and then the whole Cardiff gang overhears it, and they come storming in, and there's, you know, there's a fight that breaks out between Donna and like it's a mess. Do you like, what do you remember about shooting that? Because it looks like a really complex scene in terms of how you coordinate all that. So I imagine you probably spent better
I
part
need
of a
to go back
day.
and watch it. I don't remember. Um, I thought you were gonna say when I came into Cameron to find Cameron.
I'm
I
super curious
didn't.
about
I
that
had
as
totally
well.
forgotten about doing that.
It was a big, like,
That's
it was almost like a public speaking role for you because it, you know, your
probably
character
why.
and Hunt are having to launch a product in front of
Right.
a bunch of people, and you're doing a very nice, like, you do the reveal of the product, and there, that piece is nice, but the camera is also watching as the Cardiff team is coming in and hearing a direct competitor now launching their product minutes before they were going to. And so it's like there's a lot of people and
Yeah.
a lot, you know, a lot of sort of mayhem in the scene, but it sounds like that one didn't jump out for you as much as the one with Cameron.
Can't believe I can't really remember it. I remember the crew, the cinematographer, and the crew of that show. Honestly, they were special. I mean, I'd never. They had everything rigged up in this studio, and I think it's the beginning of being able to, use an iPad and with Wi-Fi and control all the lights so quickly. So they could shoot things, and the directors could on the fly just decide to change setups, and they had so much flexibility. So I don't ever remember there being like a real hiccup or even being aware of the complexity of a shot. I mean, a lot of times as an actor, I don't even want to know,
Mhm.
because I don't want it to. I don't want to have to play it differently or let it affect my brain into thinking I need to play it differently for a close up as opposed to a wide shot. So I just stay out of that.
Yeah. And you were just mentioning a scene with Cameron as well. Was that something that is top of mind for you?
Yes, when I come in with the shotgun, um,
I
I think I'm still in my robe.
yes. I I have wondered what Brian was doing there in that moment.
I saw somebody come in. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe there was also he wanted to confront um Scoot's character, I think, as well. I think he's a little he's had a couple too many Coors Lights, so he's coming in.
I think
Um,
your depiction that he's had a break, that like the culture he came from was to be loyal, be a company man, and
yeah,
now that's been sort of stripped away. It
and I
gives
think I
me
remember in that monologue he's saying, or not a monologue, but whatever I'm saying to Cameron's character and laughing that it's now happening to her.
it's
Kind of,
very much a warning there for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Like that's how these people will treat you too, sort of a vibe.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
You
a
know, oh,
it
sorry,
has
go
its
ahead.
funny moments, but it's so sad.
Yes.
It's like, wow, this
That's
guy's
what's
on
funny
his road.
about shooting a drama is that a lot of times we can barely get through the scenes because we're laughing, especially when there's computer jargon and you have technically challenged people like me and Scoot and really Mackenzie. I don't know how much she actually knows about computers or what. She might actually. But yeah, trying to say some of the computer jargon and just getting it completely wrong is always hilarious. Um, and I know Scoot wanted me to maybe hang out at night a little longer, but I was like, I have to go work on some of these words and lines because they don't come natural.
And yeah, and for Brian, they kind of have to because you're like, if we know one thing about Brian, he's very serious about his work, so like there's
Engineer.
a deep technical knowledge there.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any moments that you remember from set, from your experience behind the scenes working on the show?
Oh yeah. Lots of those. I mean, like I said, Scoot, he just made that set his home. And one day we were hanging out, I think on the weekend or something, day off, and we are driving past one of those giant Bass Pro shops. And Scoot's like, oh, we got to stop here because I need to get a new bow for bow hunting. Like I said, he's a huge outdoors guy. And I said, oh, okay, let's go there and get a bow. And we went into the store and he demoed some bows and arrows and whatnot, compound bows, like serious stuff. And he goes, I got a great idea. Let's get a target to bring to set and we can practice there. And I was like, what are you talking about, Scooty? You can't bring a, a hunting bow to set and shoot it on set. And he's like, who's going to stop me? And he was right. He next day came to set. He said, well, come over here. And I helped him carry the target and we shot this thing in between the trailers. And no one, even the security guard came over, but he just came over to watch. No one was concerned. I remember a shipment of moonshine actually. So we shot in Atlanta, and they stopped production in the middle of we were shooting something, and somebody came in and was like, "Hey, the guy's here!" And everyone, cast and crew, went outside and lined up and got their homemade moonshine. It was fun, is what I'm
Wow.
hinting at. We had a lot of fun shooting when I was there.
I'm getting that sense. The first interview that I released was with Morgan Hinkelman and Alana Kavanaugh, who played young Joni and Haley, like
Oh
the
yeah,
little Joni and Haley. And they were like, one day it snowed on set and we had never seen snow. So they just stopped filming and let us play in it. That like, and now the stories you're telling, I'm like, okay.
yeah. I mean, that cast, and I don't know who. It might have been Lee, but they would have dinners all the time. Definitely when we got the script or got the new script, they would have a dinner and the whole cast would come over and just on our own. I've never been on another show where the cast did that and we got together and we would read it a couple times and have dinner and just it makes such a huge difference, because you become so much more comfortable with people, and that in acting you have to be comfortable and be willing to fail in front of people, and the more friendship there is, the easier that becomes. So that was really special, and I'll always remember that.
What a lovely collaborative environment, especially if you're somebody who's coming in for 5 episodes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
Lee hosting it at his house, and just have at the rental house or whatever, wherever he was staying. I remember this nice little house, and
Yeah.
he was so cool. I don't know if we ever had I was in maybe a scene where he gave an announcement or something.
Probably. He did a lot of the speech giving. I think I was just watching back a scene where he had to, it was right after the layoffs happened, and he had to sort of tell everybody in the kill room, okay, here's what we're doing, and then he just like proceeds to give a vision that has nothing to do with the laws of physics. And so it was this whole thing where everybody in the kill room, it hadn't been named that yet, but they're just like, you can't, this is not a thing, like it's a great idea, all of these are great ideas, but there are this many problems with it, and there's a lot of grumbling. And I'm curious for you, because you also had, you had a lot of scenes where you were working like sort of directly with Gordon, but you also had some stuff with the guys from the kill room, the other
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
engineers. What was, but because you had a lot of stuff that was separate, like how much interaction did you have with the other engineer actors?
A lot. I think, and stuff gets cut, but we definitely have scenes where, when somebody's talking, you need to work out, if you go over here and have a little conversation with people, what you guys are actually going to talk about. And a lot of those guys were local Georgia actors, and who have gone on to, they're in everything that shoots there. So they're in Walking Dead and Stranger Things. I think one of the guys became a pretty big part on Stranger Things. He's one of the teachers or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was friendly with all those, everybody. They were all, I mean, incredible professionals, and happy to be there, as we all are when we get a chance to be paid to play pretend. It's the greatest job you can have. Uh, but I just thought of another funny behind the scenes, um, in the car crash. The the car that they brought before we started shooting, the engine caught on fire, and right before Scoot and I were supposed to go in there, and because it was, I don't know where the hell they got this car, but I'm glad it didn't catch on fire when I was in there. But then we had to wait around for hours until they found another car or something. But yeah, that's always hilarious, and that's something, as an actor, I think that was my first time in a car that was actually on one of those trail. So you're not really driving, so you have to remember not to just go like this. It's so odd. That's like not something you train or do.
How does that work? I don't know about this.
Car is being is it You're on like a trailer, basically. The front half of the car is not there, or they put it on some sort of a trailer, and the camera is like the guy's on the windshield right here in
So it's
front of you.
being pulled.
Yes, it's being pulled.
Cool.
But then there's another, so they have to have two cars, I think, because then they'll do a shot of us. We did drive it, I think, and then we had a walkie-talkie in there, and that's always a huge mistake with two jokers like me and Scoot, because once we get a walkie, we're just gonna start doing bits about, like we're truck drivers or something, just like, Gray Squirrel, come on in here. We're driving down the road. You see these hippies on? I don't know what the hell we were saying, but
Gray Squirrel, the engine's caught on
yeah,
fire.
the car's on fire again.
Oh my god, I can only imagine being the person who had to get the backup car.
It was
The
wild.
chaos. Yeah.
It was chaos. And then I think they hit the car because we spin around in the car. They hit it hard. It was wild. It was nuts.
It all feels just so appropriate for Halt and Catch Fire, though. Something needs
You're
to go up
right.
in flames.
I did not put that together, but you are. Correct.
There's not simply not enough fire in that show.
That's what we had to do. We had to halt because something caught on fire.
Yeah, good stuff. Who knew? So, where do you think Brian is now? Some,
Oh,
like somewhere between 5 and 10 years later.
either Brian, yeah, he got a job as a manager somewhere, or he changed into doing insurance or something, or he became a horrible alcoholic, and who knows what happened. Sad things. I'm not sure. Good old Brian. I'm sure he got it together and went back to work for Enron or something.
It's a good multiple choice that you just provided. So everybody listening, A, B, or C, is he? What do you think? I like it. There, couple different directions that path could go in. I mean, it just he ends in such a like, you know, the launch of a competing product, and I think the implication is that because Cardiff then changes, they remove Cameron's fancy operating system, so they're able to then outcompete. I think they're able to outcompete the Slingshot now, is what I'm gathering. They end up getting a really big contract. So I don't know if what Brian did worked out like immediately well for him or immediately
Right.
like nothing.
I think nothing. I think it just, yeah, it's not, that's not what's special. What's special is what Cameron comes up with, I think.
Yeah. Well, what are you working on now? Is there anything that you want to share about what's happening for you, or
The
maybe what's
funniest
been
thing,
released?
the funniest thing is that that thing that we were making that almost prevented me from being on the show, that never saw the light of day. The same person who gave us the funding back in the day, um, has reached out and wants to maybe do it again. I can't really talk about it, but what I'm working on is just trying to book another gig. I mean, it's been a crazy 3 years for our business with COVID. And then the year after that, I did get to do the whole second season of The After Party, which is on Apple. You can check that out. But then last year was a strike for the pretty much the entire year. So things are in flux in this business. And the biggest thing I'm working on right now is just being a dad, because I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old as well.
That's full time.
It's full time.
Right there, 3 in 1. Just trying to keep them alive.
Your viewers didn't see this. This was the swag season 1 gift, the Halt and Catch Fire all weather jacket that still looks brand new. It's amazing.
That's nice. That's
I
solid.
don't know who made it, because you need it for Atlanta when they shot it. It was crazy. I think that season was when they had an insane ice storm and people literally got stuck on the freeway for 9 hours or something, and really scary.
What a nightmare.
I was luckily in my hotel room.
So that swag came in very handy for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. So is there anything else that you were thinking of that you wanted to share about the show? I think we've exhausted my questions, but I'm just so interested to hear about these experiences that you had. I never would have known to ask some of these things.
I know. I mean, it was just great. All I can say is it working with people I had already known, getting a shot to do something dramatic. As you can tell from my credits, I usually am only in comedy. You kind of get typecast in this business. I will always be in a debt of gratitude to Chris Cantwell and Chris Rogers, who actually is my neighbor. He lives 4 houses down from me. And he's a very handsome man and is in incredible shape, runs all the time. I know people want to know that.
That actually does make me think of one other question for you. So is there anybody cast or crew that you want to shout out that did, that just did, you really enjoyed working with them, that you haven't already gotten to mention them somewhere along the way in this conversation?
Oh, I mean, Toby Huss, he's a legend. He is someone like me. I don't know how old you are, Melissa. I'm not going to ask you, but I grew up watching the show Pete and Pete. And Toby is actually on that show as a very odd character. And to see, I think Halt and Catch Fire also for him really gave him a boost in his career in a way. He never got to play those parts. And he was amazing and is the definition of a raconteur, which is just a natural storyteller. He would just, I think he would just start telling a story that had nothing to do with the show, and they would start rolling or something. And sometimes it would just, it would lead into a scene and they'd keep some of it. Who knows? I couldn't tell. He was amazing and the nicest guy. And I got to see him actually during the strike on the picket lines. So it was cool to reconnect.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of people are saying nice things about Toby. It's interesting to hear that he was such a natural storyteller, because that absolutely becomes part of Boz.
Yeah.
As time goes on. I don't know if it's so much there in season 1 and then it blooms.
Yeah. Him and Cameron's or Mackenzie's character. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking some time, for sharing everything you could think of about Halt and Catch Fire and then some. And, this has just been such a blast to.
Thanks for being a super fan and for putting this together and, stoking the fire in me to go back and rewatch the show. It's been too long.
Yeah, well, that's been the fun part. It's, I think, bringing up some memories for people now. And, I think it's 10 years since the first season dropped. So we're in a good reunion year. What better time than
And
right
it's on
now?
Netflix now, right?
AMC Plus right now.
Oh, AMC Plus? I thought people were discovering it on Netflix. Somebody else recognized me the other day out of nowhere.
Yeah, there was a minute that was happening, I think, but I don't believe it's on Netflix right now. But who knows? Because once this drops, maybe it'll pop up somewhere else. So everybody
Maybe
should.
Disney now, since they own everything, it has AMC Plus in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you so much for doing this. I mean,
Thanks for having me.
So many interesting stories you shared.
All right.
All right, everybody, go out there and watch Halt and Catch Fire. Bye.
Bye.